Alright guys, check it out. Today on American Heritage Garage, we're continuing on rebuilding the brake system on the 40 Chevy. What I'm going to show you a real quick video today is how to rebuild the wheel cylinders. This vehicle's four-wheel drum brakes, so there's wheel cylinders all the way around. It's a pretty quick and easy process. There's more time consumed cleaning and honing and getting all the junk and stuff out of this thing than there is actually taking it apart and just putting it back together. So it should be a short one. Most wheel cylinders are all pretty similar. There are some differences. We'll talk about those as we go on, but I just wanted to show this to you. It can be pretty helpful if you're ever getting into rebuilding brake systems. So let's get to it. Like I said, we got a quick one today. I just want to show you how to do the how to remove, rebuild, and reinstall the wheel cylinders. Pretty similar on any vehicle. These are a little different. I'll show you as we go. First thing I'm going to do is knock the bleeder screw off. Don't have to, but get it out of the way now if we can. Try not to strip it out. Try not to break it off. Sometimes going a little bit tight first will help you with that. So get that out of the way. Like I said, you don't have to do it now, but it's just as easy when it's mounted and stable. This is the driver's side rear. So as you see, this is the side that the line is cut on. The line would come in on this banjo style. So we'll get that off real quick. And then we'll have to remake the line here. A lot of times this is not a banjo style. A lot of times this is the direct flare nut off the line. So in this case it is this banjo style, and the flare nut goes into the, you can see the flare nut goes right here into the bottom of the banjo fitting. Of course, you're going to have a copper washer here and a copper washer on the other side, so either try not to lose them. Probably going to want to replace them. That's always the best idea. I think ours is still attached. That's fine. Then last thing on this side, you have the two mounting bolts. This can vary per vehicle. Sometimes they are a snap ring style. Most of the time it's two small bolts. Grab a screwdriver and just give it a little pry, and it should pop right off in theory. Come in behind it, being a little careful. Okay, you don't want to bend anything. You don't want to. So as you can probably tell, see, this end's coming off, which is fine because that comes off. We need this, but we don't need this cap, so we'll just get that out of the way. As you can see, while we're here, these have been sitting for a while, so we'll still continue to get it off. Off she goes. Found it. Look at all the stuff that fell off on my leg. Okay, so empty hole, good to go. Once these are finished and rebuilt, they'll get reinstalled. Look at that torn glove. They'll get reinstalled. We'll throw in the axle seals, reassemble the brake drums, put the axles back in. button it up underneath, call it a day. Let's get this thing on the bench and break it down the rest of the way. So I got the wheel cylinder up in the vise real quick. We put it in first. We're going to knock very carefully against this cap on this side and on this side to knock the cap off. It's stuck on there a little. Doesn't take a ton though. Cap off, more junk. Again, the exterior goes away. We got new ones. The threaded guy here, that stays, so we'll set that aside. So, real quick, what we're going to do is I'm going to set up, this is a ball joint press. I'm going to set this into the ball joint press because there's so much gunk in here, you can't push the pistons and the piston seals and the spring out, so we got to use a little bit of force. So, real quick, doesn't take much. Set this in here. So I'm a big proponent of using what you got. Okay, you don't necessarily, let me shut this off. You don't necessarily have to go out and buy anything fancy. Of course, I have a stand-up shop press, and I do have different collets and stuff to go in there, but you don't really need that stuff. I'm using a large socket that fits. It fits the end of this, and it allows the piston to slide in. And then again, I just have the ball joint press. So we'll go one side, push it one way, and we may have to come back and push it the other. Try to get it a little bit straight in there. Then we just start pressing. Okay, it'll come out, no problem. It hasn't been hard to get out, but you just can't push it straight out. This seems to help. And you'll hear it. The rubber. No side, there you go. So there's one side. We'll just keep going. I can pretty much go by hand right now. So we're just going to push this the rest of the way through. Then we'll have our pieces, and I'll take you back in the back, and I'll show you what we're going to keep. We'll talk about this for a minute here. Here's the rest of it. Okay. Let's head to the back. So here's what we got, minus the brake bleeder, which goes in the back here. We still got our copper washer on there. We'll pop that off, swing over to Napa, grab a bunch of new ones for this whole thing. Also, I am going to replace the brake hoses, and I'll show you that in a minute. So here's your pieces. Not much to it. This is an example of a new kit. So you have the end and the end, the adjusters. No star wheel adjusters on these separately. They're part of the wheel cylinders. That's different. More modern drum brake assemblies don't have this setup. They're going to have this guy that would just push straight in. And this is what connects to the upper portion of your brake shoe right here. And then this is normally rubber, like a dust boot. Okay, the rest of this is usually pretty much the same. So you got a piston seal or a piston cup, you got a spring, and then same thing on the other side. That's about it. So again, we're going to keep the pistons. Okay, this is no good. This portion is no good. And then we'll unthread these. It's no big deal. Just take something, whatever, grab it in your hand. They should come undone. So we'll set this aside. I'm going to go in my can here and dig some pieces, parts out that have been sitting in there for 20 minutes or so. Clean them up the rest of the way, blow them all out, get them looking nice. Then we'll come back and we will reassemble the new stuff. So we got rear and then front for the passenger side here. The rears, your piston seals, your cup seals, and your pistons are slightly smaller, okay, than on the front. So I got all of it in here, but we'll dig through and not get it mixed up. So do that real quick. So another extremely important step. After you get this cleaned up, I shined up the outside a little. Might shoot some paint on it once I brake clean it. But down in here, you can see how nasty the bore of this thing is. Okay, you cannot put this back together and have it operate properly with the bore looking all nasty like this. So what you need to do is get yourself either a ball hone like this, or I don't have a small enough one, The other style of hone would be like this. This is for an engine block for doing cylinders, but they both hook onto the end of drills. They do make these smaller, but the dingle ball one, that's what we call them, work just fine. You want these to fit in here just snug. Okay, you don't want it tight, you don't want it loose. Another very important thing when you're doing this is some sort of lubricant. Penetrating fluid, WD-40, PB Blaster, whatever you want to use. I like to use PB, so we'll spray into the bore a little bit, then we'll just run it back and forth through. Okay, so we got clean parts. We got 2 clean pistons. The adjustment screws are clean, and then our wheel cylinder body is clean. Again, we got some decent cross hatching in there. No more gunky junky rust. When you're putting these back together, clean surface. So I rolled back my cloth here that's all nasty. You don't want any sort of contaminants in here. Light coat of brake fluid in the chamber here, in the cylinder. I cleaned these off. I did use a bench grinder with a wheel on it. Very light touch. You don't want to take any material off of the outside of this. You could use emery cloth, a very fine emery cloth. You just want them nice and smooth. They should fit with no problem. Out she goes. Okay, that's without any brake fluid. So a nice through and through fit. Okay, so that's really, really important. The brake fluid in here will help, and you know that should be that. So let's see if we can set up here. Of course, I forgot my camera. You know, it's a mix between forgot it and can't find it. I didn't really look for it. So we'll see if we can put this back together to where you can see it with my phone here. Okay, so we got new pistons, new ends. So first thing I'm going to do is take my ends, okay, with my adjustment screws. And actually I'm going to do this last so I don't get my hands all dirty. Put a little bit of anti-seize on the threads. So again, very clean. Get a little brake fluid on my finger. We're just rubbing it in there all over, not a ton. If you can feel any contaminants, get them out of there. So now it's as simple as the cup has a flat side and a dished side. The dished side goes against the spring. So however you want to do this, if you want to push them through the opposite way first, like this, you can, but you can only do one like that. So we'll go one that way. We'll go right up to the end. Okay, and then the piston is opposite. The dished end goes out. So we'll use this to kind of square that up. Okay, now we'll get the spring seated in there. We got this guy in there nice. And again, use the piston to get that flush. Okay, so there you go. That's that much of it. There's going to be some pressure against them. So that spring is pretty tough. So you're going to want to kind of get this done quickly, otherwise the stuff's going to fly out. So here we got one side and the other. Set that down. Anti-seize on the adjustment screw. I'm going to go ahead and thread these all the way down. We'll make adjustments on these later. And as far as I could tell, when I took these things off, there's really nothing that holds them on. Your little clips here need to be raised up so that fits on. But that's it. Just like that. So I want to double check that because these things don't seem very secure, but that's how it was when I took it off, so that's how it's going to be for now. There you go. One rebuilt wheel cylinder. So this is the left rear, driver's side rear. Okay, got a new bleeder for it. We'll put that in when we're done. But as far as I know right now, this is ready to go back on. So I got 3 more to go, and we'll be ready to reassemble the brakes. Remember, like I said, a lot of times this is going to be rubber, and this is just going to slip in and out of that rubber boot, but the rest of the insides are always the same. So no big deal. That's just that's how it is. Pretty simple. So yeah, we'll be good. Let's jump over. I'm going to finish the rest of those, and we'll get stuff back together for next time. A couple things before we close out here. I mentioned we were replacing brake hoses. This is why. They're just degraded. We're talking safety here. Old rubber. I'm not anticipating any issues with metal lines, but you know, these rubber lines are just, they're not that expensive. They're worth replacing. It's a safety thing. If you're out on the road, you want to be able to stop. Those can swell. They can get full of junk that degrades inside here, and they could cause no fluid to pass through. So we're going to blow out some brake lines and clean everything up. Other than that, besides the emergency brake, all 4 drums around the vehicle are the same. So I'm going to get this soaking for the night, and we'll get the rest rebuilt and put back together. All right, guys, there you have it. Got the wheel cylinders all rebuilt. Got 2 of them on the vehicle already. I got 2 more right here to put back on, and that'll take care of that. We'll be ready to reassemble the brake drum assemblies. So once we get that done, I got to jump in and rebuild the master cylinder, and then I have a couple lines to rebuild in the back, and I also want to blow out all the brake lines underneath, get rid of all the junk and debris and old brake fluid in there. So that'll about wrap up the brake system. And once we're done with that, we'll finish up some stuff with the fuel system, get the fuel tank back in, got to get all the axle seals and all that stuff back in, the axles in. And once we hit that point, we'll be ready to give this thing a try. Still got to switch this thing from 6 volt to 12 volt. Make sure there's some of the wires that are damaged get covered up, taped up, so we don't get any, short the grounds, all that stuff. So I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys are liking all the content. Please comment. Let me know if there's anything else you want to see, if there's any questions you have. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Please do if you haven't. Yeah, and we're going to keep chugging along. Got all kinds of stuff coming up. So until next time, guys, we'll see you out here at American Heritage Garage.